Hello, and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try to teach you things in roughly an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, with my co-host and spouse, Ron Carlson. This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on our interpretation of relevant law, and any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individual or individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California. Before we start this episode, I would like to take a moment to say that we have been on hiatus for quite some time due to life stuff. So thank you everyone who has been listening to old episodes, and to those of you who are listening right now, thank you so much for sticking around, and welcome to episode 40, the first episode in a mini series where we do a deep dive of the Data and Restrict Acts. Yeah, our first segment is going to be the first thing that we are going to talk about is going to be Twitchcon 2022. There's really not a whole lot to talk about there. I know that I promised a lot of people that we would discuss that when we come back, and in all of our research, nothing happened. For everyone, in all of the research that we could find, absolutely nothing is happening, and Twitch, Lenovo, and Intel are not going to be held accountable for what happened. And it's disappointing, and it's sad, and it's upsetting.
I couldn't find any examples of lawsuits coming out of TwitchCon.
For those of you who are not aware, TwitchCon 2022 happened in San Diego Convention Center, October 7th through the 9th. And basically, multiple people were injured due to a whirlwind of just no one doing their job, essentially, is what it boils down to. There was a lot of sexual assault and sexual harassment that happened. But that was, unfortunately, that was off campus. So Twitch is not actually responsible for that. Although, if it weren't for TwitchCon being there, that shit wouldn't have happened in that particular manner. It just, there's a lot there, because there was a lack of security, and there were just so many third party parties outside of the actual venue, because they just would not allow them so anyone could have a party. So there was no kind of regulation, no kind of safety, no kind of security and assurance for any of the parties. No guarantee that you were going to be safe. And so due to that, and I feel like Twitch is negligent in that regard by not doing something to help people. And all of those parties that existed, every single one of those vendors are also responsible for that negligence, and there should be lawsuits against them. But I don't have time to look at every single vendor and see if there's a lawsuit against every single vendor. So our main focus was on the TwitchCon foam pit situation. And there were numerous injuries, which resulted in someone breaking their back and basically cannot do their job anymore. And I even talked to a couple of people, and I asked them about their injuries. It was like ankle breaks, knee breaks, twist, and fractures, like minor injuries, but still injuries that matter, right? And it was due to negligence, because the foam pit was not created properly like it was supposed to be. And absolutely no person that works at Lenovo, Intel, or Twitch had anything to do with even building it. So it was a whole complete third party there building it. So you have like no regulation, absolutely none. And there is no communication between any of the vendors, any of the institutions that were involved in this either. And there was just so much lack of control at TwitchCon 22 that my advice for TwitchCon 2023 is to not go. Don't go. It is being held in Las Vegas this year. I'm going to Vegas, but I'm not going to TwitchCon, and I will not be going to any vendor parties unless I can be assured that I can be safe there.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And that is all we have for TwitchCon 2022. And that frustrates me. But I understand, because the constant thing that I was being told was that people were afraid to contact a lawyer. They didn't have the money to talk to a lawyer, and they didn't want to basically try to fight a big institution. And I understand that. But what I really need people to understand, especially right now, is if someone doesn't start the ball rolling, nothing will change. Nothing will change. And these big institutions, these big companies and corporations continue to roll over and hurt people and literally kill people. We have to take a stand. There are more of us than there are of them. We need to bully and eat the rich. And that is my assessment on TwitchCon 2022.
Do you want my opinion?
I mean, if you want to go for it, go for it.
I'm just gonna say I feel, and this is just my opinion, that all of the potential lawsuits were already settled, because that would be the smart corporate thing to do.
What is it that you said? They took the Disney route, which right. Amazon has the money to do so. We've been talking about for years now how Roe v. Wade, the overturning of Roe v. Wade is going to allow this to happen. Because Roe v. Wade is what now? Not just about abortion.
Correct.
So would you like to summarize our miniseries on Roe v. Wade, which starts at episode 28? Highly recommend you go listen to it.
Roe v. Wade, the right to abortion was based on an implied right to privacy found in the Constitution. The overturning of Roe v. Wade stated that there is not an implied right to privacy in the Constitution.
Yes.
And therefore, you have no right to privacy.
Which allows for Congress to pass laws like the Restrict Act and the Data Act. What are those? Basically, the TikTok bans.
Right.
And that is the main subject that we're going to talk about today. And it might end up being a couple of episodes, because we're going to go line by line. Which one do you want to start with? The Data Act, which was brought forth in 2021, 2022, because that is the one that was last year. Or no, it was introduced.
Yeah, and the Restrict Act seems to be introduced in the Senate March 7th, 2023.
Yeah, the Restrict Act is the one from this year. The Data Act is the one with the Trump Congress. You know, that was pre-midterm elections. So that's something I want to emphasize. Like, this is bipartisan, which is not good. When they say bipartisan, this is bad because these are people who don't know how the internet works, that are introducing bills to restrict stuff that they don't understand that they're not going to have access to anymore. Like, they are so stupid. I'm going to say this. It'll probably get edited out. But these people in Congress are so stupid. They don't even know what Wi-Fi is. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me with this shit?
If you listen to some of the questions that were asked of the TikTok CEO, you just have to wonder where the hell these people get these questions from.
Oh, I saw a TikTok video. So they had a little poster board, and they had one of the things that they were talking about was the Benadryl challenge. And I remember this girl's video because I saw it. But it was a thing to showcase that the Benadryl challenge is bad. And what the actual video, the context of her video was, this is why you don't do the Benadryl challenge. Like, this was her showing why you don't, because she had an overdose of Benadryl, like, pre even TikTok. And she's like, this is what happens. Like, literally educating people. This is what TikTok is used for. And she's like, that's my face. That's defamation, right? And I'm like, yes, that's defamation. You should sue that congressman.
Well, congressmen get to lie all the time on the floor.
So, which one do you want to go over first?
We'll go over data first, since it was first in time. And the first thing that opens up is the summary.
Yeah.
And the summary goes as follows. This bill requires large websites and social networks that use algorithms for suggesting content to obtain express consent from their users before collecting or sharing their personal data. The websites must notify users of this requirement, including information about the type of data collected and the name of any third parties with which the data is shared.
On its surface, that doesn't sound bad. It sounds very similar to some of the EU laws that exist, which the EU laws are some of the most restrictive when it comes to data privacy, but they still have TikTok, they still have Twitter, they still have like all of those social media things. I think we should model it after the EU personally.
The bill provides for enforcement of this through the Federal Trade Commission.
And a private right of action against a violator of the bill. What does that mean? Oh.
That means that you have the right to sue a website that violates this.
So that's the part of the bill that allows like the individual that's where the individuals get their rights.
Right. So, for example, if Facebook doesn't tell you this, you have a right to sue Facebook.
Which they don't. So everyone actually already had. And I mean, all of that, the data, okay, so DATA stands for Data and Algorithm Transparency Agreement Act. But all of this already exists. So why do we need this?
Right.
On its surface, if you look at the summary, that's, when you click on the accept cookies, like that's what that is. Like, this is something that's already in place. So why are they introducing a new bill? What is in this bill that is different from what already exists? That's
there
what I
lies
want to know.
The question. So if we go to the text, and some of these can be very lengthy.
Yes.
Section 2. Notice and consent requirements for internet platforms that use algorithms to manipulate the availability of platform content.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay. This is the requirements for a platform.
For algorithms.
To come under.
So they're specific. Okay. That's where. Okay, because the algorithms to manipulate. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I love the use of the word manipulate because all social media platforms manipulate their data.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so definitions. Number one, covered data, which is different than just data in general. Covered data means, with respect to an individual, data regarding their habits, traits, preferences, beliefs, or location of an individual. Okay. Number two, covered platform. The term covered platform means a public facing website, internet application, or mobile internet application, including a social network, a video sharing service, an ad network, a mobile operating system, a search engine, an email service, or internet access service that A has not less than 30 million active monthly users in the United States, and B uses an algorithm to increase or decrease the availability of content on the website or application.
Okay, I just disassociated. Can you please summarize that to me? I full on disassociate. I'm like, oh, this is
social media that has less than 30 million active monthly users does not fall under this act.
30 million active monthly users in the US. Okay.
Yeah.
There's 150 million active users on TikTok. There are not nearly as many on Truth Social or any other right-wing platform.
Right. I do believe that like Instagram would fall under this. Facebook probably falls under this.
Meta would absolutely fall under this, but Truth Social, the ones that are directly, specifically made by right-wingers don't fall under this.
Yeah, I haven't seen how much Truth Social does.
1.7 million unique from the US. So it's not, it doesn't fall under there.
No, TikTok is by far the number one social media platform.
Yeah.
Getting on to the next portion of the law, it's subsection C called requirements. And this is what a social media or website or application has to do. 1, no collection of covered data without consent.
Which it already exists, right? Like, they're not supposed to be doing that already, but they do it anyway.
Right. The consent is usually in the terms of service, which is buried somewhere. And we'll say something like, if you agree to use a social platform, you agree to our terms of service.
Right.
So you agree to all the data that's being collected on you.
Right.
Okay. And it states a covered platform shall not collect any covered data of an individual without obtaining the individual's express consent for such data collection. That's why you have to click on that you accept the terms of service, because it is express consent.
Okay.
And supposedly, if you click on the terms of service, that's your express consent. Even though I'm going to say 99% of people just scroll through those terms of service and click on it.
Well, if you don't agree, you can't use the platform.
Right.
So in reality, you just don't get to use it. And that in lies the problem. And they don't regulate what laws do exist already when it comes to this stuff. It's not enforced. We already have these like regulations in place. They don't enforce them. So why are we putting this in? Like, you already don't do what exists. So what is this doing that's any different?
So far, it's not, from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Okay. Revocation of consent. You must allow any individual to revoke or withdraw the individual's prior consent to the covered platform, collecting the individual's covered data. And at the request of an individual, delete any covered data of the individual collected or held by the platform.
Okay.
So far, that sounds pretty good too, generally speaking.
Like, I mean, all of this sounds like shit that's already supposed to exist. Allegedly, it all already exists.
Right.
Okay.
No sale, sharing, or conveyance of data without consent. A covered platform shall not sell, share, or otherwise convey to a third-party entity any covered data of an individual without obtaining the individual's express consent. And of course, a covered platform shall allow any individual to revoke or withdraw the individual's prior consent to any sale, sharing, or conveyance of the individual's covered data.
Okay.
So far, seems okay. You can't collect data without my consent. You can't sell it without my consent.
Yeah. So this is all stuff that's supposed to already exist that they have put into here.
Right. So, and now we have the manner of notifying the individual. The notice required shall contain the information described in paragraph or subparagraph C and shall be provided by a covered platform to a user in plain language and in a conspicuous manner.
Which that means TOS does not, that's not plain language. TOS is not plain language.
It should be, but generally it is not.
Because that a TOS is written by, TOS is more lawyer language.
In addition to any notice relating to the terms of service of the platform.
That, again, they already do. All of these.
Yeah.
Like, they do that.
Each time the user logs into the platform, unless the user affirmatively waives receiving the notice.
That would get annoying. That would
that's why people waive the notice.
That's not a way to, that's not a good solution to that. That is an IT nightmare. That is not a good solution. That is proof that these are people that don't understand how IT works.
And each time the platform modifies its terms of service.
Now, that is something that they do. Yeah. When you modify the terms of service, you let us know.
The notice is required to include the following. 1, with respect to collection of covered data by a covered platform, the type of data to be collected, whether the collection of data will continue beyond the user's immediate use of the covered platform, and how the data will be used by the covered platform.
I'm not sure if all of that is what we are given so far, but that sounds good to me. Like, yeah, give me, I want to know exactly what all, but I'm pretty sure that is actually covered under the terms of service.
I don't think some platforms' terms of service is.
No, I don't think all platforms is that detailed.
Doing that, right.
Yeah.
And with respect to the sale, sharing, or conveyance, the specific data that will be sold, shared, or otherwise conveyed to a third party. I can tell you right now, data brokers don't do that.
Yeah, that I do like. That data brokers have to share that information. That would kill that would kill that industry, really, if you think about it.
The name of any third-party entity to which the data will be sold, shared, or otherwise conveyed, and the country of origin of the third-party entity to which the data will be sold, shared, or conveyed.
Okay, that I don't mind because I understand the espionage fact of that. Plus, it would really fucking wreck the data broker industry, which is an industry, in my opinion, that should never have existed. So that is something I don't have a problem with. That is something that doesn't exist right now.
And that is the essence of the Data Act.
Yeah.
So generally, sounds good.
Yeah.
They need you need express consent to gather the data. You need express consent to sell the data. They got to tell you what kind of data they're tracking on you, and they got to tell you where they're selling it.
And a lot of this stuff they already do simply because of the EU laws that exist.
Right.
So this will just kind of reinforce that and kind of force them to be a bit more. So that right there, that's not, I don't think that's bad. I don't, at least reading this. Now, what about this enforcement?
Okay. The enforcement is by the Federal Trade Commission,
Which is the FTC's bullshit right now. So nothing's going to happen there.
A violation of the above, everything we just read, shall be treated as an unfair or deceptive act or practice in violation of a rule promulgated under section yada, yada, yada.
What does that mean?
That means basically that if you violate the above,
it's just telling you what you're like what section of the paragraph you're violating. Oh, okay.
Right.
It's just legalese.
Yeah. Okay. Powers of the commission. In general, the Federal Trade Commission shall enforce this act and any regulation promulgated under this act in the same manner, by the same means, and with the same jurisdiction, powers, and duties as through all applicable terms and provisions of the Federal Trade Commission.
Okay.
So, yeah, that just means the Federal Trade Commission has the right to, enforce.
None of this means shit. Okay, we don't care about any of that.
Privileges and immunities.
This just basically tells you what the FTC does. What's the actual enforcement? Like, what is... That's what I want to know.
Okay, here we go. The private right of action.
I guess what's the punishment?
Okay. An individual alleging a violation of this act may bring a civil action in any court of competent jurisdiction, state or federal.
Mm-hmm.
Injury in fact, a violation of this act with respect to the requirements to notify and obtain the express consent of the user before the user's data may be collected, sold, shared, or otherwise constitute a concrete and particularized injury to that individual. Now, I do believe there have been some courts that have ruled that just collecting everything is not an injury. You haven't been injured.
Okay, because they're not using it for anything. They're just collecting it.
Right, even though it's a violation of the act. So there is some litigation going on about that.
Interesting. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Relief. In a civil action brought under paragraph 1, in which a plaintiff prevails, the court shall award A, the greater of not less than $5,000 and actual damages, and B, reasonable attorney's fees and litigation costs.
So basically, you will be at least, if like the defendant wins, they'll get at least $5,000 attorney's fees.
If the
plaintiff wins. So if the person bringing the lawsuit, the plaintiff, because they're complaining. Okay. Not complaining, but because they are. Okay. All right. That's how I'm going to remember it. But anyway, the plaintiff. Oh, is that the root of complaint? Hold on.
Well, the plaintiff is the party that files the complaint.
Wait. Okay. So complain is the right word to associate with that.
Yeah.
But they're not like complaining, but like, okay.
Oh, they are complaining.
They are complaining, but
legally.
Okay. All right. Word association. All right. Plaintiff. So the plaintiff person who brings the lawsuit will be rewarded if they win their attorney's fees and at least $5,000.
Right.
And then actual damages. I think that, I'm sorry, that should be a larger, that 5,000 should be more than that when it comes to the amount of money that they make with the data brokerage stuff. That should be a higher number.
I agree. Generally speaking, that's really all there is of the Data Act.
So the Data Act, in essence, is not actually bad. It's just an addition to what already exists, and we should have enact. It should exist.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily overbroad, because I do think that the 30 million user thing, though, it should be everyone. Every social media platform that exists should have to abide by that rule, that act, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is something that I think needs to be rewritten to reflect that it should be any amount of users. You should be required to deal with data in this way. Just end of story, period. And if you don't, then you shouldn't be a social media platform that exists then. Because social media in essence is not, it doesn't exist. It can exist. Social media cannot exist in a capitalist society, because social media is more of a service for people globally. It's not going to make money. Social media is not something that's going to make money. Anything that helps people connect and commune, it's not going to be very profitable.
They're trying to make it so.
Right. And the thing is, if we weren't so focused on greed and profits,
the selling of your data is what makes it profitable for the platform.
Right. Our next and final segment, which is the Restrict Act. So the Restrict Act stands for, it was introduced March 7th this year, restricting the emergence of security threats that risk information and Communications Technology Act.
Correct.
Which is, in the name, that is a massive overreach of government. But they're allowed to do it because Roe v. Wade does not exist anymore, which is why it's probably going to pass if we do not call our senators and our representatives.
And I must say, this is in the Senate right now.
Yeah.
This is a Senate bill.
Yeah.
And it's a bill to authorize the Secretary of Commerce.
It's, real quick, it is sponsored by Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat from Virginia. And it is under the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee.
Yeah, and I bet if you look at all the people that is named there, they all own a lot of stock in Meta.
Somebody on TikTok actually went through and did that research. And did that research. Yeah. Yeah.
Every single one of those people that was named in that video should recuse himself from voting as a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
I feel it's unethical for them to vote on this legislation.
Just like it's unethical for Amy Coney Barrett to vote on anything that has to do with abortion or women's rights. Because she makes money off of pregnancy crisis centers.
Correct.
Yep.
Except the difference is the Supreme Court doesn't have an ethics committee or a rule of ethics.
And they should.
But the Senate and the House do.
Yeah. The Supreme Court should have that. That is an egregious oversight that I find really interesting, that the Supreme Court does not have an ethical oversight. So the Restrict Act is sponsored again by Mark R. Warner from Virginia, a Democrat. It was introduced March 7th, 2023, and it is called the Restricting the Emergence of Security Threats That Risk Information and Communications Technology Act, or the Restrict Act.
Yes. And it authorizes the Secretary of Commerce to review and prohibit certain transactions between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries. And then it says, and for other purposes. So we'll see what these quote unquote other purposes are. Okay. You already gave what was in Section 1, which is what the Restrict Act stands for.
Yeah.
There are some definitions. There's a definition for classified national security information. And what that is, it's information that has been deemed pursuant to an executive order, and it gives a number, relating to classified national security information. So you'd have to look up that code to see what is considered classified national security information.
Okay.
You want me to
That's an executive order, though. So that's not something that's really in law. And like, that doesn't have to, you can just, okay, if that's an executive order, could the next president not actually come in and say this executive order doesn't exist anymore, therefore this act cannot exist anymore?
Yeah, except you'll see that they've codified it. 50 USC 3161.
Okay.
It basically, it lets national security information be whatever they want it to be.
Oh, okay. So essentially, based off of their interpretation, so it's subjective. It's fully subjective.
Very subjective.
It's overbroad. It's an overbroad statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine what TikTok is gathering that is national security information, for example.
I mean, if it's not supposed to be on federal work, if it's not supposed to be on government devices, you shouldn't have to worry about that then.
Well, if TikTok is gathering it, Meta's gathering it, Twitter's gathering it.
Yeah. All of them are, I mean, they already gather that shit.
Yeah. Okay, and here's who they don't like, basically. A foreign adversary, an entity subject to the jurisdiction of or organized under the laws of a foreign adversary, i.e. a foreign corporation, or an entity owned, directed, or controlled by an entity described in paragraphs da-da-da. So if the corporation wasn't formed in, say, China, they are also going after entities that are owned by China that may not be Chinese companies, or Russian, or North Korean, or Iranian, or English, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
That they're not,
or Canadian, or
or Mexican, or Brazilian.
So anything that's not of the United States of America. Basically, this is colonialism for social media.
Yeah, America first.
So America is trying to colonize social media.
Well, we always have tried to control the internet itself.
This is true.
This is just an offspring of what they want to control.
Interesting. Okay.
Then there's covered transactions. A covered transaction means a transaction in which an entity described above, the foreign adversary, has any interest or any class of such transaction. So basically, a foreign corporation, any transaction that they do, this is going to cover. This act is going to cover.
Okay. Which means what? Like, what is that actually? I disassociated. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah. Any transaction done by one of these foreign adversary companies is covered by this Restrict Act.
Okay. So any data sale in any form. Okay.
Data sale, any transaction. They don't say data transaction.
Oh, shit. So you mean like if I wanted to buy something or spend money through TikTok?
Right.
I would be subject to that too?
Yeah.
Or would that... Hold on. I'm...
Okay. Subsection 1. They define classified national security information as information that has been determined pursuant to this executive order.
Which is literally anything they want to classify.
Yeah.
Just whatever they say. So it could be something as arbitrary as like a PIN code, but if they want to classify it, it's classified.
Right. And our government has a history of always saying something is in the purview of national security and we don't need to tell you about it.
Great. Okay. All right.
A controlled holding.
I'm sorry, but that is so overbroad and such an absurd overreaching of the government. There needs to be transparency, and this is allowing for absolutely none. No
Correct.
Transparency. From that, right? That first thing. No, there's no transparency. So right there, this is completely written off, in my opinion. That's makes it.
When you do a Freedom of Information Act, for example, on the Kennedy assassination, you get back pages and pages that have been blacked out and you can't read.
I understand that some things should be redacted, but there are some things that should not be. And I don't like the...
I mean, that assassination happened 60 years ago. Who are we still protecting?
Right. Well, you know my theory. And it's a conspiracy theory.
We're
not doing conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
We will not discuss my conspiracy theories because we each have a very different conspiracy theory on the Kennedy death. And I find that absolutely fucking hilarious.
Okay, but
anyway,
back to the definitions.
Yes.
A controlled holding means a holding with the power, whether direct or indirect, and whether exercised or not exercised, to determine, direct, or decide important matters affecting an entity.
Okay, so I don't... that is so absurdly worded.
Yeah. I don't have the context for it, but it basically sounds to me like anything an entity does.
So, so if we're looking at it in the scope of TikTok, to me, the context is China, because China has a 25% stake or some shit like that in TikTok. but they don't have any controlling stake and they don't have any persuasion on TikTok. I don't believe that at all. I do believe that they probably do have some sway in TikTok, but I don't think it is to the degree that our government thinks it is.
Well, the company that owns TikTok, what is it?
ByteDance.
ByteDance. They are subject to all the Chinese laws.
Right.
And the Chinese law says you have to give us whatever data information that we want.
Right.
So there we go. That's why TikTok is doing that Project Texas.
Yeah. So they can at least so that American data is held on American soil. And I think that is what you should do for every region. That like every country, UK data should be held on UK soil. That to me feels like common sense.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they can't still get access to that data in China. But if like your main servers are, but there is no guarantee that those are still going to be the main servers. And that's where my brain goes. Because
the servers, if the data the servers collect is funneled into Oracle.
Yeah.
In Texas, China's going to have to hack into Oracle to get it.
Right, but well, I don't know enough about how the I don't know enough about IT to fully understand this. So I'm not even going to continue this conversation. I don't have an opinion on it. I have questions and neither one of us can answer them. So that's the extent of that we can discuss on that. But I'm assuming it has the context of, it is the context specifically of China and TikTok, right? So if you look at it from that context, it means whether it's exercised or not exercised, meaning silent partner or not, they're subject to this. That's at least how I interpret that. Is that a proper interpretation?
I still need to know the context of a controlled holding.
Okay.
And we'll see it pop up later in the text. Otherwise, they wouldn't provide a definition for it.
Well, it says, covered holding, the term covered holding.
That's a different thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
Okay, a covered holding is specifically a foreign adversary, which, give me the definition for adversary, which they don't. So that any foreign country, corporation, business can be considered a foreign adversary because they don't say enemy. Does that make sense to you?
No. Okay. I was trying to look up what a controlled holding is, but I don't. There's a.
Here's the thing. A controlled holding is defined as what's in this bill.
Oh.
A controlled holding in another bill can have a completely different definition.
Oh, okay. So then what are they doing here? Why did they? So in this,
I don't know.
Oh, so they're saying that they're going to establish what these definitions are.
Correct.
Okay, then why do we have the term meaning a holding? Why is that kind of shit added then? Like what
don't know without context.
Okay. And that is why.
Don't know.
I have so many questions.
A bill/law always starts out at second section with all these definitions.
Okay. I did not know that. Fair enough. Okay. Now, covered holding.
Okay. A covered holding is basically an entity that is a foreign adversary, which there's a problem with that.
That's literally anyone against the US. So that could be you and me, depending on who's in charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
An entity subject to the jurisdiction of or organized under the laws of a foreign adversary, i.e., a foreign corporation.
Okay.
Or an entity owned, directed, or controlled by an entity described in subparagraphs 1 or 2.
Again, so like everyday Americans who criticize America because it is a fascist state are foreign entities right now.
Not American citizens. A foreign adversary is going to be a non-US
Okay.
entity.
Oh.
But for example, if some and I'll say Saudi Arabian because they like to buy the Premier League soccer teams. But if they came in and
they have a lot of stock in Meta as well, if I'm not mistaken.
If they came in and bought the Dallas Cowboys, now the Dallas Cowboys fall under this.
Interesting.
Does that make it?
So
okay.
By this, then that means Meta falls under that. Because Meta, I mean, I'm pretty sure foreign entities own parts of Meta because it's a publicly shared company.
Do they have a controlling interest in Meta?
Oh, how much would be a controlling interest?
51%.
Okay, okay. All right. So how does TikTok fall into that? Oh, because the owner is not an American. Never mind. Right. Okay, never mind. So yeah. Which is so fucking ironic because Meta literally just laid off so many people and sent so many departments. One of our closest friends is looking for a job right now because she lost her job because she worked for it was the third party that was contracted by Meta, and they sent that project to India.
Yeah.
But no, let's ban TikTok. You can't even pay people to moderate. Like you're not even willing to pay people in this country to work on your social media. Why the hell would we want to use your platform? You don't even want to pay the people here to work on it. Why the fuck would we want to use your platform? Anyway, continue on.
Okay.
This is going to be peppered with my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm not holding back.
Definition 4, covered transaction. A covered transaction means a transaction, apparently any kind of transaction, in which an entity described above, that we've already talked about,
the foreign adversary,
has any interest, and then it says in parentheses, including through an interest in a contract for the sale, in a contract for the provision of technology or service. But that's not limited. That's just an example.
Okay.
So any transaction or class of transaction.
So like any transaction, what, within the app or from
any transaction?
So like, they call them like roses or whatever. Like they have the way they do the stuff in TikTok is weird to me, but whatever. But you can like buy some roses and then like drop roses on people in their lives, in their live streams. That falls under this?
Yep. It's a transaction.
What? Okay. And so why?
Because they want to control anything given to a foreign corporation, be it money or stock or whatever.
So this affects so many of the businesses. Like this, wow, this is literally attacking. Oh my God. Because we're not using Meta.
Yeah.
Because, wow. So what if Etsy, what about Etsy? If Etsy was owned by a foreign government, they would fall under this.
Yep. eBay would.
Not Amazon. Because it's owned by Jeffrey Bezos.
Right. But if it was owned by, I don't know, someone in, say, Saudi Arabia, and I say that because they have a lot of oil money.
Rupert Murdoch. He's
Or
not
Rupert Murdoch.
He's not a U.S. citizen. He's a foreign entity. So what does this do with Fox? What about Fox News? Do they fall under this?
All transactions.
I mean,
Fox News should fall under this. Yes,
they're a media company. Okay.
Number 5, definition of critical infrastructure. Oh boy. The term critical infrastructure has the meaning given the term in section 1016E of the U.S. Patriot Act.
Which also needs to go away.
Yeah. So
this just expands on the Patriot Act.
Yeah. It takes part of the Patriot Act and makes it applicable. Number 6, an entity means any of the following, whether established in the United States or outside of the United States. A firm, a government agencies, government department, or government commission, a labor union. Who would have thought?
Why would a labor union fall under any of this? Why would a labor union have that?
In a short nutshell, fascists hate labor unions.
Okay. Continue. This next one is very interesting to me.
A fraternal or social organization.
That would mean girl streamers and Real Women of Gaming and unified streamers.
Yes.
All of those they're established in, well, actually technically Girl Streamers was established in Canada.
They said inside or outside the United States. If you think about it,
they are essentially social groups. They are social organizations.
Your World of Warcraft guild is a social organization. Let that one sink into your head. Okay. E, a partnership.
This affects, like, that's the Red Hat Ladies Club. That old lady club.
Yeah.
Is a
Daughters
social
of American Revolution.
That's it. They're a social organization.
Yeah. Sons of the Confederacy.
Interesting.
Hell, the Society for Creative Anachronisms. You know, the ones that want to live in the Middle Ages. That's a social organization. A partnership, a trust, a joint venture, a corporation, a group, subgroup, or other association or organization, whether or not organized for profit.
You know what this sounds like to me? Do you know what this sounds like to me right here? Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. When fucking Umbridge was like, I have to, like, you have to go through me to have your special groups, right? Which is why because of Dumbledore's army, like she was trying to get Dumbledore's army. And so like in the book, and I, we do not support J.K. Rowling in this house. I just want to put that in there. But for this reference, this is a very solid reference. And so I will get there. Anyway, so Umbridge enacts, remember her decrees, her magical decrees?
Yeah.
So one of them was specifically this whole thing, this right here. And it was like, you cannot form this group without going through me. And I have to say yes or no. And because she had a special vendetta against Harry because, power. Harry's queer. She held the Gryffindor sports team, the Quidditch team, over his head. She did not allow the Gryffindors to be a group for a while until the other teachers had to step in and say, that's not fair. This is what this sounds like. It sounds like those stupid magical decrees.
We haven't even gotten into how this is worded in the text of the law.
I know.
We're still at the definition stage.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what this sounds like it is going towards. Jesus.
Okay.
Sorry. Like
7, executive department and agency is exactly what it sounds like. Someone that's in the executive branch. Okay, here we go. The definition of foreign adversary. This is what I wanted.
Okay.
Means any foreign government or regime determined by the secretary pursuant to sections 3 and 5 to have engaged in a long-term pattern or serious instances of conduct significantly adverse to the national security of the United States or the security and safety of United States persons. Okay. This includes, unless removed by the secretary, pursuant to Section 6, 1, the People's Republic of China.
Of course, that's number 1.
Including the Hong Kong Special Administration Region and Macau Special Administrative Region. Okay. Number 2, the Republic of Cuba. Number 3, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Number 4, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That is North Korea.
Yes.
Number 5, the Russian Federation. And number 6, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela under the regime of Nicolas Maduro Moros.
Oh, that's a very bold statement, Cotton. Currently, what is happening down in Venezuela is literally what is happening right now in America. That's a bold statement, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Holy shit. Okay. Wow. I find it very funny that they are not naming a lot more fucking countries in this. That's very specific.
It is very specific.
Because there's a lot of other countries that should fall under this based off of those.
Afghanistan.
Why is Afghanistan and Iraq not there? Why is Saudi Arabia not there?
Because we don't want to piss the Saudis off and not have them give us oil. It all comes down to follow the money. Okay. Now, a holding, just a holding definition, an equity interest, a stock, a security, a share, a partnership interest, an interest in the limited liability company, a membership interest, or any participation right or other equivalent, however designated and of any character, and includes without limitation any security convertible into an ownership interest and right, warrant, or option to acquire ownership interests.
So a stock falls under holding.
Yes. If they have one stock, one share, there's a holding there.
So it is not 51%. It is as little as one stock.
For a holding, yeah. But not a covered holding or a controlling holding.
Oh.
This is just a holding.
Oh. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
ICTS covered holding entity means any entity that controls, manages, or owns information and communication technology products or services, and has not less than 1 million US based annual active users at any point during the year period, or for which more than 1 million units have been sold to persons in the United States before the date on which the covered holding is referred to the president.
Okay. Can you summarize that and explain that a little bit more? I think I know, but I just need a, yeah.
If you have more than 1 million active users per year,
right,
you're considered a covered holding entity.
Okay, so Truth Social would fall under this.
Yes.
Okay. Because we just established earlier that they have 1.7 million users.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting.
11, definition of information and communications technology or services means any hardware, software, or other product or service primarily intended to fulfill or enable the function of information or data processing, storage, retrieval, or communication by electronic means, including transmission, storage, and display.
Are they talking about phones and like computers and shit?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No.
What the? What? Okay.
The cloud.
So if your phone was built in China, because all of them are built in China, this is literally an attack. Oh, okay. I'm done. Continue on.
Okay. Mitigation measure. The term mitigation measure means a measure agreed to in an agreement between any relative party and the federal government, or ordered by the federal government, and of which any relevant party has been notified in any matter addressed under this act to address any risk from a covered transaction or associated with a covered holding.
What does this mean?
This means that if the federal government has an agreement with a party in the transaction, for example, Apple, it's okay if you have your phone components come from China.
Aha. Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's okay, Meta. You can send those jobs over to India. It's fine.
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay. 13, person. This is pretty much common sense. A person means a natural person, including a citizen or national of the US or of any foreign country. Basically, a human being.
Yeah. Again, we're still just establishing definitions, what they're talking about here. Okay. We are still just establishing definitions.
14, relevant executive department and agency heads. when it shows up in the text, it means all of these people. Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, and it goes on.
Oh, they're just naming like all of the government entities and using one specific acronym so they don't have to write it all out.
Just like in 15, the relevant committees of Congress.
Gotcha. Which is Commerce, Science, Transportation, Judiciary, Committee of Homeland Security, Governmental Affairs, Foreign Relations, Banking, Housing, Urban Affairs, Armed Services, Rules and Administration, Intelligence of the Senate, Energy and Commerce, Judiciary. A lot of these are the people that the 20 fucking MAGA people wanted to be on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because these are the important, powerful committees.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever they use the term secretary, according to number 16, they specifically mean the Secretary of Commerce.
Okay.
And 17, transaction. The term transaction means any acquisition, importation, transfer, installation, dealing in, or use of any information or communications technology product or service, including ongoing activities such as managed service, data transmission, software updates, repairs, or the provision of data hosting services or a class of such transactions. So your transactions are limited to what is there.
Okay, so not literally every transaction then.
Correct.
It is specifically data communication information.
Yeah.
Which is...
But without that definition there,
yeah,
it would be any transaction.
Interesting. Okay.
And
but
so
they've already established that...
important to read all the definitions.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So now that we've established these definitions that are very confusing.
No, they're made that way so lawyers have job security.
And with that, we have wrapped up part 1 of the Data and Restrict Act. Thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Learning the Law, Ron at NecroKijo, me at Phoenix Nymphy. And if you have any questions, please tweet, comment, or email us at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. 2 is spelled out TWO. And this has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.